Did you know that every 2 months here at Rebel Base Media, we run our Podcast Rebellion podcaster meetups? They are live, in-person meetups, and we also run them right across the board when we're at events and when we're at conferences and all over the world. In fact, Podcast Rebellion is the collective name for our community. Anything that Rebel Base Media does that you don't have to pay us for, our Facebook groups, some of our free stuff, our meetups, our community. And that is the question that I want to pose to you today. Should you build a community around a meetup? We've actually branded ours. Rather than just saying, hey, it's the Rebel Base Media meetup, it's actually branded. We've stuck a label on it, because you know me, I'm into brand. I love kind of making things feel like their own thing. So should you run a meetup for your podcast? That's what we're going to get to today here on the Podcast Accelerator. I'm Mark Asquith, CEO and co-founder of Rebel Base Media, where we make Captivate.fm, amongst other things. Now, Captivate is the world's only growth-oriented podcast host. We're getting a lot of love for it. It's making some waves in the podcasting industry, and we've got a slew of new features that we are launching very, very shortly. In fact, we release new features and updates every single week. Go and check it out for 7 days free. If you're getting a little bit frustrated with your old hat podcast host, or maybe they're making you feel a little bit silly because they talk to you, well, not like a human. We see that a lot in podcasting. Well, Captivate ain't going to do that. Our team are people and will treat you just like a friend. So go and check it out, Captivate.fm. Now, podcasting is all about people. No matter the growth of the industry and the tech or the advertising innovations that we're seeing, there is nothing more powerful than connecting with other humans. So should you run a meetup for your podcast? We're going to answer that question in 30 seconds. Before I give a shout out to the team at AWeber, go and check them out. Like, it's crazy how much people want to know how to make money from their podcast. And without an email list, trust me, you ain't going to make the money that you could make, all right? So AWeber, they allow me to run my mailing list. They've got pre-built templates to help podcasters to engage their listeners. So please, it's kind of a no-brainer. Go and check it out, markasquith.com/AWeber. Now, meetups are important because if you think about it, podcasting is all about people. I never say, hey, guys. I say you. I say, hello, you, the constant listener, the friend, the person whose eardrums I'm beating on right now with my dulcet northern British tones. And it is all about you and me. All right, it is all about you and me. But one of the things that I do subconsciously, I didn't realize I did this. Someone actually pointed this out to me a few years ago. It might have been my good friend Jonathan Oakes at Podcast Movement, actually. What I do is I'm a connector of people. And my great friend Carrie Anderson always says that there's nothing better than being a connector of people. So what I do is, I'll connect you to another person and then you two to another two people and so on and so forth. And I'll build a community out. It's what I do. And I think that's very important. Now, if you think about podcasting overall, it's become an industry. There's a lot of people that don't like that it's become an industry. You see a lot of people, some of the old guards, you know who you are, getting a little bit condescending, act like a little bit of a fool in some of the Facebook groups because ultimately they don't like the fact that their little cottage kind of business has turned into an industry. But you as an independent podcaster, you've got to embrace this because now the top end of the industry, the wonder is the big numbered kind of shows, the shows that are getting hundreds of thousands of downloads per episode. Well, those are the guys that the advertisers and the brands are throwing a lot of big bucks into. And they're big industry machines. There's nothing wrong with that. But podcasting now, it's kind of got these 2 or 3 tiers. You've got the top end, those big players. You've got kind of the middle tier, the kind of independent podcasters that do really, really well for themselves. And then you've got everyone else, people like you and me who, get a fair amount of downloads, but really it's all about the people behind the downloads. It's all about connecting to that 1, 2, 3, 10, 15, 20 people that listen to the show. And there is no better way of doing than that, getting people together. Now, I'm a huge fan of this. I think you probably should start to run meetups for your podcast. Now, there's a couple of ways to do this in my mind, where you actually run a podcast meetup where you say, look, here's my podcast. Here is Trivial Warfare by Jonathan Oakes. I'm going to do a Trivial Warfare meetup. All right, and that's for the fans of the podcast. So that's one really good way of doing it. But the other way of doing it, which I think would work better for some of the smaller numbered shows, is let's say that your podcast is about Star Wars, all right? I've got a Star Wars podcast called Spark of Rebellion. It's bang on. I love doing it. Me and Gaz have a lot of fun. But it's not a business. I don't want it to be a business. It's fun. And if we make a bit of money doing it, all well and good. If we get press passes to Galaxy's Edge, even better. But the key thing is that rather than saying, let's do a Spark of Rebellion meetup around the podcast, actually, if you want to grow your podcast through meetups, and a better way of doing this would be to say something like, hey, let's do the Sheffield Star Wars meetup, where we just get all of the Star Wars fans together and we talk about the new movie. Maybe we do a live podcast recording because, hey, there is a podcast that exists about Star Wars in Sheffield, so if you're a Star Wars fan, you should probably be listening to it. That's a really nice way of bringing not only your current listeners together, but by bringing together people who are interested in your subject matter, who may indeed want to listen to your podcast. Because remember, podcast discoverability triangle. There are people that don't know about podcasting. There are people that know about podcasting that don't know about you. And there are people that know about you that just want to share what you do. So if you can bring those three types of people together in one place around a topic, what do you think is going to happen? You're going to get more listeners, but those listeners will be more personal. They'll be more personable. They will know you. They will understand you. They will engage with you much higher. So then if you get someone like Loot Crate knocking on your door saying, hey guys, we want to sponsor you because we've got all this Star Wars goodness that we put in our Loot Crates, you can prove that these people that you've got around your show will actively engage. So let's answer the question directly. Should you run a meetup for your podcast? Is running a meetup for your podcast a good idea? Yes, it is. But it's not just about your podcast. It's about your topic, your subject matter. And if you can bring people together around that, not only is your podcast going to get exposure, but you're going to gain new listeners and you're going to build friendships along the way. So yes, get on Eventbrite, find a pub, find a bar, find a cafe, find a co-working space, find somewhere that you can use for free. Get on Eventbrite and start to build a local meetup for people that are interested in the topic of your podcast. Not just interested in your podcast, but those that are interested in the topic that you cover on your podcast. That is how you run a meetup for your podcast, all right? Get to it. I think it's a great idea, and I think it's very low effort. It's very low cost. Go and crack on, all right? It's going to benefit you massively because it puts you right at the center of that community as a leader. Please go and do that. Please go and do that, all right? So thank you for joining me here on the Podcast Accelerator. I'm just getting over that last bit of flu and cold that I had, so thanks for bearing with me if I sound a little bit nasally today. Please go and check out Captivate.fm for your podcast hosting, analytics, and marketing. It's a real forward-thinking platform, and we're real people behind it as well. So please go and check that out. And until the next time, tell a friend that you think would benefit from the show. Give this a share on social media if you found it useful. And let me know what your thoughts are at Mr. Asquith on Twitter. All right, so I'll see you next time. Enjoy yourselves. Stay safe. Thank you for listening. Never forget, the more you expect from yourself, the more you will excel.